Nigeria is where, for everyone who is in Nigeria understands what it means to build resilience. Even without knowing you're building resilience, you have actually built resilience because you've been in this country in the past, maybe in the past 3 years for this administration. So you can actually tell what's going on. So we're going to be talking about how to build emotional health and resilience. Before I start, I want to do a quick check-in. Which word best describes you? So I would love everyone to put it on the chat box. Which word best describes you in the last month? How would you describe yourself in the last month? So I'll be waiting for us to. I'll quickly join with my other phone so that I can also see the chat box.
Okay, I'll also let you know when we'll have anything up. Won't have
Yes.
any.
Okay. So if you some persons will ask themselves, or some persons will say, I in the past months I feel this way. In the past months I feel that way. Some persons will say they're happy, stressed, overwhelmed. But in the past month or in the past 2 weeks, how can you actually describe yourself and what emotions are you feeling? Now, what is emotional health? Emotional health is that state of mind that an individual finds themselves, that they're able to function socially, they're able to function physically, they're able to function mentally. Now, sometimes you find people in a state of mind where they are not able to function, they're not able to put in their best, but they are living. Um, I don't know if anyone has lived in Lagos before. I grew up in Lagos, and there are places you go to in Lagos where everybody is moving as if as someone is chasing them. Like everybody is on this hyper mood. Now we're saying that for someone to say they are emotionally healthy, they understand their self, they are able to manage themselves, and they're able to face life challenges even when it comes. Because we know that for every time you've moved from one stage to another in life, there are challenges that life will throw your way. So it does not say that there would not be emotional hazards, but it's saying that you're able to handle yourself when it comes. So there is self awareness of those emotions. There is healthy expression of, you know, those emotions when it comes. Then there are secure, meaningful relationships. And then there is a sense of purpose as a result of what you have carved out for yourself. Now, a lot of times you'll find people say, I am fine, but they are not emotionally okay. I could say, oh, I'm physically okay, I'm mentally okay, but they are not emotionally okay. And you can actually tell when somebody is actually struggling emotionally by the things you see or by the way they behave. Now, this is an emotional iceberg. Most times, what people see when an individual is going through an emotional meltdown, for instance, is different from what is happening. I might be having a feeling of jealousy, and then I show anger. Someone sees me and say, "Oh, she's angry," not knowing that it's actually because I feel jealous. That's the reason why I am showing anger. So most times, what we see is different from what is actually happening inside the individual. I might feel scared and show sadness, right? And show frustration. But what you see is either me yelling, me being angry, me being feeling frustrated, or me crying. Meanwhile, there are other things happening on the inside. Take, for instance, a child. When a child is hungry and they're not able to communicate that they are hungry to you hear them cry. And then you keep saying, why are you crying? Why do you keep crying? You can't really tell why the child is crying. You might just think they're crying because they're tired or because they want to sleep, but they're actually crying because they're hungry. So most times, when an individual is having certain emotions show up, they're not having that emotion from the place of that emotion primarily. It might be coming from another aspect of what they truly feel. Now, this takes me to the next slide, which is talking about the emotional will. A lot of times, if you look closely at the emotional will, you will see that most of the emotions we show are not the exact things we feel on the inside. If I feel scared, what I will show will be different. If I feel, if I'm feeling fearful, I could be fearful because there's a feeling of insecurity. And then from that feeling of insecurity, there could be a feeling of inadequacy, which could be self esteem issues, low self esteem issues. So, a lot of times when people are having certain emotions, it is not just that emotion that they are showing you that is the main thing. There is actually something on the inside. Like in the course of treatment for me, when a patient, for instance, tells me they are depressed. They are depressed because they feel like they are failures, right? The question I would ask is, why do you feel like you're a failure? You're not looking only at the depression, you're looking at the feeling that is making them have that depression. So most times, the emotion that the individual feels is not what they show. It may be that they are showing that emotion because that is the only way they can express how they feel. So each time you look at the individual, you see someone getting angry. Oh, this person is always angry. But behind that anger, there is actually some other feeling that they are feeling on the inside that is making them show anger. Now, talking about the windows of tolerance, if an individual finds themselves where they are showing certain emotions, it's because they are, number one, not able to regulate their emotions. There is something called emotional regulation. And this regulation is the ability to regulate your emotions in a way that is tolerable socially. So imagine that someone walks into a place where they had just lost someone and they are mourning, and maybe some people are crying and others are wailing. And then you walk into the place. While you were there, you started watching a skit, maybe on either TikTok or Instagram. And while you were watching the skits, one of these comedians did something that was very funny. And then you busted out laughing in that environment where people were crying for the death of someone. How would people look at you? How do you think people would perceive you for just that act? Now, being able to hold yourself or understand the environment you are and behave accordingly shows that you have emotional regulation. So, if we're going to be looking at the windows of tolerance in that emotional regulation space, we're saying that there are times when, as individuals, we have emotional outbursts, which is normal. There are times when, as individuals, we feel numb, which is normal. And there are times when, as individuals, we're able to tolerate whatsoever is going on with us, which is also normal. So, in mental health, it is we only look at the extremes, the extreme high or the extreme low. We're not looking at the normals. We're looking at the extreme high or the extreme low. So, for instance, for somebody who is having a hyper arousal, like you're very hyperactivity, you're very stimulated, there are tendencies for you to have heightened physiological and psychological activations. For instance, let's take a child who has, say, autism or yeah, let's take a child who has autism, for instance. Now, this child constantly gets hyper aroused as a result of either colors or sound. Now, when this happens, you see them crying, screaming, and then you do not know what to do because at that point they are very aroused. They're very activated, and you're wondering what do I do with this child or why is this child shouting? Now, imagine another child who has um, Down syndrome, right? Another child who has Down syndrome, and then they're constantly on a slow. They're at that phase where they, when they do not know what to do, they just shut down and they just go sit down. They just go stay in one place and they're not saying anything to you. Then imagine another child who is just normal, who would play and then go and sit down, right? So if you look at these three children, you can actually tell that one is at the extreme high, one is at the extreme low, and then the other one is in the middle. Now look within yourself and ask yourself, how strong are you with frustrations? Like, what's your frustration threshold? A lot of times you find some person's frustration threshold very low, to the point where when something happens, just a little something, they are all over the place. They cannot even put themselves together to be able to, handle the situation. So you find out that a lot of people have low frustration threshold, meaning they are not able to tolerate certain stressors or life stressors the way other people would tolerate it. Now, if you as an individual has a lot of, or if you have emotional intelligence, it helps you understand people around you and understand why they behave the way they behave when they behave that way. For someone who has a high or a low frustration threshold, which is like high or hyper arousal, you will see that this person is always in that fight or flight mode. There's always anxiety, panic, anger, irritability, racing thoughts. All these emotions it's always like on the go in the person's mind. And when this person finds themselves at this point, they are constantly at that place where they do not know what to do. Now, the best thing for them to do is constantly use the breathing work or mindfulness, the deep breathing relaxation, so that at that point they're able to feel calmer. Now, breathing in means taking it in from your nose and bringing it out from your mouth. It's a deliberate action to be able to calm yourself. Then the other person, or we're going to be talking about the last person. This last person, hypoarousal, there is a feeling of numbness, withdrawal, hopelessness, fatigue, disconnection, shutdown. So when this person is at this phase, you would see that the person is constantly at a point in their life where they are, when um they are low, they're not able to talk, they're not able to behave or say what they feel. You find people who are struggling with depression on this space. People who struggle with depression, you find them at this space. There's this constant feeling of hopelessness, worthlessness, fatigue, frustration, even when you've not really done anything. There's a feeling of, I want to just shut down. Now, when this happens, you can tell that this person is in a low um, tolerance level. They are not able to handle certain things. Now, the other person, which is the windows of tolerance, that is optimal, like an optimal state of functioning. This person can on their own turn off or turn on. Now, in emotional regulations, a lot of times, if you're not able to regulate your emotions properly, others will regulate it for you. So imagine you go to work today and one of your colleagues sees that you're smiling too much and decides to say, oh, today Rita is smiling too much. Let me do something to make Rita get angry. And then if Rita does not have a is not able to regulate her emotions properly, that person will determine how your day goes. So they determine when you smile, they determine when you get angry, they determine when you laugh, they determine when you get frustrated. So windows of tolerance is just trying to tell us, or is trying to help us understand the capacity we have as individuals. But this being said, I would want everyone to look within themselves and ask themselves, how are they able to tolerate? What is your frustration threshold as an individual? Now, our frustration threshold sometimes differs. Some persons can have high frustration threshold in the workplace, but within the family, they do not have that frustration threshold. But some persons can have high frustration threshold with friends of same sex, but may not have it with friends of different sex, like your female friends and your male friends. So This is something that you need to look within yourself and ask yourself, what kind of tolerance level do I have? And has the level of tolerance I have, has it affected me in the past, or is it affecting me presently? Now we're looking at the 5 pillars of emotional health. For everyone who feels like or who knows that they're able to manage or they have good emotional health, there are 5 things that this person can tell you that they have. Number one, self awareness. Number two, self regulation. Number three, connections. Four, purpose. And the fifth one, adaptability. Now, if I'm going to talk about the first one, self awareness shows you what you feel, tells you how you feel, and why you feel that way. So, as a lady, right, you wake up in the morning and then you notice for some reason you're feeling very sad. There are certain questions I would ask myself. Is it that time of the month? If I ask myself that question, I can easily say, oh, I guess this is the reason why I feel this way. Then, if it is not that time, I ask myself other questions. How did I sleep last night? What were the things that happened to me yesterday night before I slept? That's because I am self aware, because I understand that I cannot just wake up in the morning and be sad. But for some other person who is not self aware, she wakes up that way, she goes to work that way, and she continues on that mood. Maybe she started that mood on Monday, she continues on that same mood till Friday, that same energy level, having low thoughts, low mood, then negative thoughts start creeping in, negative ideas and ideations start creeping in. Before you know what, they are looking for a reason why they want to cry, or a reason why they want to yell, or feel frustrated because they woke up that way. So, but for someone who is self-aware, the person can easily tell that, why did I wake up this way? I did not sleep. I did not go to bed angry last night. I did not go to bed angry or sad last night. So why did I wake up sad? They can easily figure out what it is and resolve it immediately. Now, for self-regulation, just like I mentioned earlier, that imagine that you have a colleague in the office who feels like you're smiling too much and they want to make you cry, or they want to make you feel sad or make you get angry. Then they are able to regulate your own emotions for you without you regulating it. So self-regulation means that I am able to regulate my own emotions no matter what is going on. So I come into a place, everybody seems sad, but I choose not to allow the energy flow in that environment affect me. I choose to become happy even when every other person is feeling sad. Self-regulation. The next one is connection. Having the right support, having a good support network, having the right people around you. A lot of times, most people ride solo. We have this mindset of me, myself, and I. And because you have the mindset of me, myself, and I, when things are going on or when it becomes very challenging, you do not even have someone to lean on or someone to fall back on to say, this is what's going on. And then a lot of times, some other persons have so many people in their midst that they do not even really have somebody. So there's a difference between having acquaintances and having friends. And there's also a difference between having crowd and having nobody. So as an individual, you're supposed to have that right connection. When I feel spiritually down, do I have somebody I can call? And the person would say, let us pray about it. When I feel mentally or emotionally down, do I have somebody I can call or chat up and the person will say, how are you feeling? Don't worry. Let tell me whatever it is. I have time for you. I can listen to what you're saying. So we need to have the right people or connection around us. It could be friends, it could be family, it could be colleagues, it could also be your therapist. But have that person around you that can always make you feel like you're not alone in the world. Then the next one is purpose. If you look closely at yourself, if there is no purpose, you feel empty. If there are no values, that is guiding the choices you make as an individual, it gets to a point where you feel empty. And that's because you're constantly just acting out based on what is happening to you at the moment. But when you have values, there are certain things you would not do. There are certain things or places you would not find yourself. There are certain things you would not allow into your space, into your mental space, into your physical space, into your emotional space. There are certain things you would not allow. So if there is a purpose, definitely it means that there is a what and there are values as a result of that what. Then the last is the adaptability. Adaptability means you being able to adapt to whatever, you being flexible to whatever life throws your way. If we remember 2023 or so, when fuel price went from 200 and something to almost 800 at the 1000 in just one day or one night, Nigerians adapted to it like nothing happened. I was thinking that we were going to have like another NSAS period, you know, but nothing like that happened. Everybody went on with life like nothing. That's adaptability, even though that one is on the bad side. But that is you being able to adapt to whatever life throws your way. It could be the loss of a job. It could be the loss of a loved one. It could be the loss of a property. It could be anything. Being able to adapt to whatsoever it is that life throws your way shows that you have good emotional health. And trust me, you don't build these things overnight. You don't wake up one morning and you have them. They are capacities that you have to build over time, just like what we're doing now. But there are capacities you have to build over time. Now, I want each and every one of us to look within ourselves and ask ourselves one question: which of these do I have? Which of these am I lacking? When and where do I get these ones that I am lacking so that they can become a part of me? Because trust me, the things you build for yourself, no one can take it away from you, no matter what happens. Now, the next slide is talking about the practical strategies for emotional regulation. Just like I have mentioned earlier, right? You need to have a relaxation technique that helps you as a person. Someone says they watch skits. Someone said they lie down and just sleep. Some other person says, oh, I just watch movies or I watch funny videos. A lot of things works for different people. The same thing, it may not be a one cap fits all. For some person, it could just be me going to a spa and getting a massage. It could just be me going to the gym and, jumping on that treadmill. It could just be me taking a walk while I'm listening to music. It could just be me sitting under the shower and have a cold water run down my head. It could be anything for anybody. So you need to have the techniques that works for you. It's not a one cap fits all. It's different techniques for different people, but you need to figure out the ones that works best for you. It could be just deep breathing exercises, but figure out what works best for you. The other one is journaling. I usually tell my patients that when it comes to life challenges, or especially when it comes to traumatic life experiences, journaling is the best way to go. Journaling in the sense that you're able to write down what you want to say. So even when you're having issues with somebody, you can easily just journal and vent in your diary. You can pour out your heart in your diary, in your journal, and then come back to it later. Maybe few months later, you realize that you no longer feel that pain, that heaviness. And then at that point, you can share it and dispose it. But journaling is one best way to pour out and to relax. If, for instance, your supervisor in the office did something to you and you can't talk to your supervisor because you don't want to lose your job, you can just go back to the house, pick up your journal, and write down everything you want to say to your supervisor, both the ones that will get you sacked and the ones that will not get you sacked. Write it down, vent. When you're done venting, later, if you've read it one, two, three times, you can pick up that book, tear the paper, tear it, and be done with it. At that point, you have verbalized what you felt. Just that you did not verbalize it to the person, but you verbalized it in writing. What your spirit man wants to know is that you have said it to someone or to something. That's just what he wants to know. And that's for journaling. Then healthy habits. Healthy habits can be a lot of things. Just like I said for relaxation techniques, it can be a lot of things. It can be sleeping early. It can be nutrition. It can be having good social support. It could be having good people around you who are able to help lift you up whenever you feel down. It could also be a good job. You know, I think one of the things that you would ask to mental health, saying if you're financially okay, right? There are tendencies for some of the problems that comes your way. You won't even think about it because when you look at the money you have in your account, you will smile to yourself and say, "Oh, I'm still doing well. I'm doing well." There are times when you go broke, when your account is going down to like 10,000, 5,000 naira, you start having anxiety, you start having depression. Everything will start coming to you at the same time. Even malaria will come at that same time. Now that's because you do not have there is something that you have hinged your happiness on, which is having financial capability. So develop healthy habits. Your healthy habit can be you seeing 1 million naira in your account every day. Your healthy habits can be you talking to your loved one every day. It could be you catching at least 6 hours sleep. It could be you taking a walk. It could be anything. But develop healthy habits so that every day, by the end of the day, you do a routine of check-in. I usually tell people that whenever your day ends, don't just end up in bed and sleep. Do an overview of that day. When your day ends, when you get into the house from work or wherever you have gone to for the day, do a mental overview of what you did that day. The people that spoke to you rashly, people that made you laugh, people that made you smile. Look for all those emotions you felt during the day, process each and every one of them, resolve them, and then go to bed. That way, you wake up the next morning feeling lighter compared to when you went to bed heavy, angry. You wake up the next morning, you're feeling very heavy as well. You're angry as well as a result of, the unresolved anger that came yesterday. So create healthy habits. What is resilience? I'm sure a lot of us have been waiting for this. Resilience is not about avoiding the storm. So resilience does not mean that so somebody cannot say, "Oh, I am resilient." It means that problem will not come. Resilience only shows that you're able to handle something when it comes. You have the capacity to handle something, whatever it is, when it comes. There is one permanent thing in life: change. Change is the only permanent thing in life. So it means that from time to time, certain things and aspects of our lives will change. For an individual to say, "I am resilient," it means that they're able to move through whatsoever that change is that happens in their life. Whatsoever it is that happens, you're able to move through it and it does not break you down. Everyone at some point in life is supposed to have a cushioning effect for themselves. A cushioning effect so that when something happens to you, even when you fall, you don't fall so bare to the ground and hurt yourself. You fall, but you fall on something that is, firmly enough to hold you until you finally catch or find your feet. And that's where all the friends, the support, the emotional regulation, and emotional resilience you have built, that is where it comes into the picture. Now, an individual can say, "I am resilient," but they are not stable. They are not able to stand when something happens. So they are only resilient when they have money. They're only resilient when they have friends. They're only resilient when they have a partner. But resilience is saying that you're still resilient even when all these things turns the negative. When you do not have friends, when you lost somebody, when you probably went through sickness and came out of it, you're still standing, you're still resilient, you're still able to move on. You know, that's when you can say, "Oh, I am resilient." And an individual cannot come and say, "I am resilient," when they have not gone through a particular life stressor. So you cannot have everything working for you and life is rosy. Then you say, "I think I'm a very resilient person." You can only tell that you're resilient when life challenges come. So it means if you have not really faced life challenges, you cannot tell where you truly stand until when you're wearing that shoes and that shoes pinches you and you can walk with that shoes even while it's uncomfortable and you're smiling. You can now say, oh, I am a resilient person. What are the resilience factors? Being able to take care of yourself, being able to solve problems, finding purpose, having good social support, maintaining a positive outlook. There are people you would see. There's this adage, this saying where they say, oh, I don't look like what I have been through. A lot of persons, you see them, they do not look like what they've been through. They're not even looking like what they are going through. You see them smiling, happy, and you're wondering, how is this person doing it? Eh? How is this person doing it? And you're thinking they have it all figured out. They don't have it figured out. They're just able to put up that resilient stand and not look like what life has thrown their way. So it means that in the midst of life challenges, I am still able to take care of myself. Even if it is just one shirt I have to wear, I would always wash it, iron it, make it smell nice, and I move with a smile on my face. Anybody who sees me can tell that it is just one shirt that I'm wearing, but they would also be able to tell that even with this one shirt I'm wearing, I'm always having a smile on my face. So the factors that makes one say they are resilient is that you're able to take care of yourself. You're able to solve problems. There are skills that as individuals we're supposed to be we at least to an extent. When you turn a certain age, you're supposed to learn those skills. There's a critical reasoning skill, there's a problem solving skill, there's a communication skill. All some of these skills are skills that an individual is supposed to have. If you have them, life becomes a little bit easier for you because certain things that life throws your way or situations throws your way, you're able to handle them without, without showing so much that it's a challenge. Challenges for you to build a resilience or to build resilience, practicing mindful breathing. Now, when something happens, for instance, if an individual loses a loved one, would practicing mindful breathing help the person when they lost a loved one? Mm-mm, it will not. Because at that point, all you're doing is you want to cry. But we having good relationships help you when you lost a loved one. Yes. So it means that there are certain skills that you need to have, or there are certain things you need to do for yourself before you need it to happen. And that's why I said when life challenges come, if you have a cushioning, if your floor is not bare tiles, you have something on it like a foam. When you fall, you will not fall so flat on the bare floor. You will have something supporting you so that you don't feel the pain so much. Investing in relationships. A lot of times, some people do not have good relationships, good, meaningful relationships. There was a time I was working, so we call the girls I work with, the girls, the out of street girls, we call them jewels. There was a time I was working, I was having a training on resilience with the jewels, and I asked them one question. If if you were asked to raise 500,000 and they say call all your family members, call all your friends, even add your neighbors to it, will you be able to raise 500,000? And most of them were like, no, 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 no. They will even be asking for urgent okay. Now, it shows you that if you do not invest in meaningful relationships, a time will come in life when you would have need for certain people and you cannot pull through because you do not have meaningful relationships. And having meaningful relationship means you also being a meaningful person in a relationship. So if I am an urgent 2K person, please, Rita, can you just help me with urgent 2K? And then she gives me today. And tomorrow she says, oh, please, can I get 1 5 recharge card from you? I quickly need to make a call. And I'm like, I don't have, if I am that kind of person, a time will come when I need help, genuine help. I would not get it because I have not invested in a meaningful relationship. Then set realistic goals. A lot of times we do not have realistic goals. Our goals are so big. It's good to have good big goals, but make them smart goals. Specific measurable goals. Not just saying, oh, this is 2020, this is 2026. by 2027 February, I want to have built a 5 bedroom duplex. Is it possible? Is it possible? It's possible to an extent, but is it possible with where you are in life presently? So if you do not set realistic goals, there are tendencies for you to put unnecessary pressures on yourself. You put so much pressure on yourself to the point where you are struggling to meet up to the goals that you have set. So set realistic goals, then move your body. I like the person who said he goes to the gym whenever he feels, a certain way, or when he feels down. There are hormones in our body that is called a feel good hormone, the dopamine. The minute you hit the gym, the minute you take walks, the minute you do certain physical activity, that hormone is released into your body. And when it's released into your body, you feel very good. So physical activities help you get, the dopamine released into your system. And when it's released, you feel good. Being able to allow yourself get some form of sunlight helps you release melatonin into your system. Melatonin is that chemical that makes you feel sleepy at night. If you sleep well at night, you definitely wake up refreshed the next day. So you can see that certain um, movements of the body or certain things you do actually helps you as an individual feel better. Then reframe setbacks. So each time you feel or you made a mistake or you felt like you've done something wrong, instead of beating yourself up, right? Why not ask yourself, what are the lessons learned from this mistake I have made? A lot of times we make mistakes. Everyone is actually bound to make mistakes. But instead of sitting on that mistake, why not get the lessons from the mistakes you've made? So imagine you being very self-critical about yourself. You're very critical. Each time you make a mistake, you beat yourself up. Each time you make a mistake, you beat yourself up. And then you would never tell yourself that you have done well. You can never praise yourself, but you would always tell yourself and remind yourself of everything negative that you have done. So refrain setbacks. Each time there's a setback, what are the lessons you have learned from it? Then talk it through. Naming a struggle out loud reduces its weight. Naming it, giving a name to a struggle reduces its weight. When you talk about it to somebody, it doesn't feel so heavy again. When you come and, oh, I have this challenge, to you, you might feel it's a big challenge because it is something that you're not able to resolve. But for some other person, they might have gone through that challenge in life and they were able to resolve it. Taking for instance, for those who have children or for those who have raised children, you realize that when you were when you were raising a child, there it gets to a point where in your life where you don't know what to do. But when you call your mom or when you call your aunt that has also raised that has grown up children, they say, auntie, my baby has been full, I don't even know what to do. You say, I think he's teething. Go and check, put your hand in the mouth and see if there is teeth coming out. Or yeah, give him this, do that. So to you, it's a big challenge, but to other persons, it's not a big challenge because they've gone through it over the years and they've been able to figure out solutions. So talk it through with people. Do not keep things that are happening to you to yourself. Talk to somebody about it. You never can tell where a solution would come from. Now, if an individual is saying they have resilience or they are resilient, you can see, just like I said, this person has a foundation of support. They have trusting relationships. They have positive role models. They have clear boundaries. So you have certain things that makes you feel like you can fall back on somebody and you will still be carried along. You have good support network. Now the question is, how many of us have good support, good foundation of support, good connections, good people around us? How many of us have those persons around us? If we don't have, if you're the kind of person say, hey, if you don't like me, that's how I am. I'm that kind of person where I'll tell you my mind, I don't mind. If you're that kind of person that is always telling people their mind or your mind and not minding whether you have friends or not, then maybe you should do a rethink. Because a time will come when that mind you're telling people would no longer be needed. You would need them, but they will be staying away from you because I am always telling people my mind. I don't take rubbish. I don't take nonsense. Well, a time would come when you would need those people around you. So you need a good support system. The next one is I am. I am means I know my inner strength. I know what I am able to do. Like I mentioned earlier, there are skills that every human should have: communication skills, critical reasoning skills, problem solving skills, analytical skills, sales skills. All these skills are skills we're supposed to have. To an extent, growing up in Nigeria made us learn some of these skills. You want you your when you were growing up, if you went to the market with your mother, you would see her bargaining. They'll tell her, "Oh, how much is this fish?" They'll say, when they tell her the fish is 10,000 naira, she say, "Ah, maybe 1,000." And you will be looking at your mother and say, "This man pricing 10,000 to 1,000." Now she's teaching you bargaining skills. You might think it is, mommy, you too price, but she's actually teaching you how to bargain. And it's a skill. Because if you're not able to bargain, it means you do not have good negotiation skills to help you in conflict resolution. So imagine that you don't have communication skills. It means you might become either an aggressive communicator or a passive communicator or a passive aggressive communicator. You're either not saying anything or you're shouting down the whole house. So you need to have an inner strength. An inner strength comes from knowing yourself. What do you know about yourself? Who are you? Outside your career, outside your job, outside your family, who are you as a person? That self-awareness helps you to understand what you are worth as an individual. How emotional mature are you? How emotionally intelligent are you? There are people who, when you look at them, they look very fine, all put together, but they are not emotionally intelligent. The kind of things they would say. You see two people quarreling, and then you come in like, me, I'm hungry. Oh. Yes, still as much as you're hungry, but is that environment or the situation at hand the best for you to say what you just said? Emotional maturity, emotional intelligence. How emotionally mature or intelligent are you? Then confidence. I am confident. I usually tell people that the loudest person in the room may be the less confident person in the room because sometimes confidence might hide in silence. You may see somebody who is very quiet and the person is very confident. Then you see somebody who is very loud and the person does not have good self-esteem. They're just shouting to cover up, you know, the fears they have. So I am confident. Even when I walk into somebody calls me to come to Aso Rock today and say, come and see this person. You will not get to the gate and be behaving as if something is missing. You're looking for something on the floor. They will not think you came to come and bomb the place and carry you. You should be able to walk into the room with confidence, your head high. Even if you're shy and you cannot look straight at people's eyes, you can actually look above their heads. They won't even know you're looking above their head. They will think you're looking at their eye because you're maintaining a straight look with a your head is held up instead of you looking down. So I am confident. If you're able to know yourself, be emotionally mature and confident, then you can say, I have emotional or I have resilience. Because if you are not, you cannot say you have resilience. If I know that I am trying to push a door and I am not strong enough to push the door, if I am aware of my strengths as a person, I can easily go and look for somebody and say, please, can you come and help me push this door? That is self awareness. So it means that even though that door is shut, I can still get it open, even if it's not by my own physical strength. So this is for I am. The next one is I can. I can take decisive actions, right? I can take decisive actions. I can do certain things. I can I can behave certain ways. I can solve problems. I can seek for help. I can regulate my emotions. So imagine that there's something happening. Let's say your maybe you went to your auntie's house and then your auntie left you with three children and they are all like toddlers. Maybe the highest grown-up person there is, say, 10 years old, and something happens, and you're running helter-skelter as the adults, what do you expect the children to do? So being able to solve problems, analyze challenges, define clear goals, and take decisive actions shows that you can solve problems. It shows that you can solve problems. So a lot of times, some persons cannot solve problems. And I'm not saying that it's anything wrong with you not being able to solve problems, but I'm saying even when you cannot solve problems, do you know people that can help you solve that problem? Because if I am resilient, it means that I am not able to do this, but I have people that can do it, that can help me get the job done. Just like the analogy I use, I have a door in front of me. I cannot break the door because I do not have the capacity and the strength, but I have somebody who can help me break the door. I call the person. I have still solved that problem, even though it is not by my own power, but I have still solved it. So when you're resilient, it means you can solve problems. The problem necessarily does not have to be solved by you, but as far as it is solved, then you have solved the problem. Then you seek help. You know when to look for help. So I am going through something. I can easily seek help. I can call somebody and say, "Oh, this is what I'm going through. What do you think I should do? Do you have anybody that can solve this for me?" I seek help. Most of the reasons why a lot of people, end up not being able to achieve anything is because they want to do it by themselves, or they believe they should do it by themselves, right? You can seek help. Seek help can be from your friends, seeking help can be from a professional, it can be from anybody, but seek help. But the help should definitely come from people who you know have the capability to help you. Then self-regulation. Self-regulation is the ability for you to be able to, you know, put put things in perspective. The right time to do something, the right place to do it. Imagine I feel like screaming because I'm frustrated. And then I went to, I went to somebody's house, and then the frustration feels like it's going to blow off my head. And everywhere is silent. And I decided to scream. Yeah. It makes me able to regulate myself. But at that time when you feel like truly screaming and you go into your room, put your head in your pillow and scream into your pillow. Yes, you can actually do that. It means you're able to regulate yourself. So self-regulation means that you can control your impulse and you choose the right time to act in different ways. So, for instance, you got, for instance, as a girl, you got heartbroken, and then you remember the fact that you were heartbroken, and you want to cry. And while you want to cry, you are at that point where it seems like, please, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, very well.
Okay, yeah. Okay, because someone joined and said, I asked, someone had joined and she chatted me and said she could not hear me. So I just wanted to be sure.
I guess it's the network.
So, okay, so you got heartbroken and then you feel like crying. And then you move to a place and everybody is laughing and smiling and happy. And then you start crying. People will look at you and wonder what's wrong with you. But imagine the same scenario. You guys are watching a movie, right? You're watching a very romantic movie that eventually the man and the woman fell in love, and you decided to cry. Now, you can easily tag your cry to the fact that something happens in the movie, and then nobody would even understand the reason why you're crying. So, being able to regulate your emotions shows that you can choose the right moments to act. You choose the right moments, the right place to act, and not just acting out. Imagine your supervisor said something that would make you angry, and you were saying something like, by doing that, you probably already lost your job. But if you know you do that same thing somewhere else and he's not there or he did not hear it, it's different. So being able to regulate your emotions shows that you are resilient, because resilience is telling us that you're able to handle issues when it comes. How do we build meaning to life and purpose to life? Because for you to be resilient, you need to be able to build some form of meaning and purpose to life. And usually our purpose and meaning to life is anchored on something bigger, you know, something more than what we are already facing. Like now, as individuals, when you look at yourself, there's something that keeps you going to work every day. There's something that keeps you waking up every morning and going to the office, even when you're tired. It could be salary. It could be the fact that you're trying to build a career. It could be that it could be anything. So building meaning and purpose helps you, you know, kind of build that level of resilience that you have or that you want. Because it means you're intentionally making choices that will make you happy at the end of the day. Intentional choices. So today your friend says, come, let's go out. And you go out with them. That's because you probably want to laugh, you want to relax a bit, let down your hair. But tomorrow is Sunday, for instance, and you have to be in the office by 7 a.m. because you have a presentation. And then your friends come and say, oh, let's go to the club. And you follow them to the club. At the point when you're following them to the club, you already know that you're going to go late to work the next day. You already know you're going to go late to work. So you need to be able to build meaning intentionally through the choices you make. Build meaning intentionally, build purpose intentionally through the choices you make. And the choices has to do, number one, with cultivating belonging. So a lot of times we find ourselves in a place where we are not needed. You need to be in a place where you're needed, in a community where you are accepted. What I find these days is a lot of youths finding themselves in circles where they are not needed. So they need to do things to belong to that circle. You're in a circle and you know they don't want you. And they say, oh, if you're going to be with us, you must smoke, you must drink. If you're not smoking, if you're not drinking, you cannot be our friend. And then you choose to stay in that circle because you want to belong. And most times when people have the need to belong to something or to someone, it means that there is a void in their life growing up as a child. There's a void that has been created by the people who took care of them. And that's why they are seeking for validation, acceptance, acknowledgement from the larger, crowd outside. So, but you need to belong somewhere or to someone, you know, that kind of makes you feel valued. Then you also need to have a focus of control. Focus on certain things, on certain things. You cannot be all over the place. More like what we call anywhere belle face. You wake up this morning, your tummy is facing south, you follow south. You wake up tomorrow, your tummy is facing north, you follow north. There was a time when, you know, the jobs that were trending, a lot of people, oh, if you don't have this skill, you cannot do this. Everybody was doing everything. Only you're a tailor. Only you're a hairdresser. Only you're a painter. Yes, it's good to have those skills, but it is now making you not have focus on what you want to do because you're everywhere and you are nowhere. Focus on control, focus on things within your power. There is this serenity prayer. God grants me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Focus on controlling certain things. To an extent, we have control over certain things, and we don't have control over other things. Know the difference between them, but focus your energy towards those things that makes you feel valued and feel like you're worth something. Then seek adventure. In life, you need to get to that point where there are things that make you happy. There are things that make you smile. There are things and people that leaves a smile on your face. Seek for an adventure. Have your comfort zone. Have your own downtime. Have your me time, your alone time. Be that person who knows when to, call it a quit and say, you know what, I've done enough for today. Let me go and take a rest. Let me take a break. Be that person who knows it. Do not wait to the point where you're breaking, like a breaking point for you to be able to say, oh, I think I need to rest. So while seeking for all these other things, also seek for adventure and commitments to growth. So Resilience is not something you get overnight. It is not a destination. It's a journey. It's something that you keep dreaming. So I might say I am resilient enough now because I have 5,000. Then a time will come in my life when I do more than 5,000 naira as capacity. Then me now saying I'm resilient of 5,000 may no longer be a level of resilience for me. So build resilience every time. Stretch yourself to the limit. Ask yourself, can I go further? Can I go further? Keep testing your own limits by yourself. Sometimes we allow life test our limits, but you actually have the capacity to test your own limits by yourself. You know, go some days and see if you can achieve certain things by yourself. See how far you can go by yourself. Don't wait till when life throws it at you. So it's a continuous process. Transformation is a continuous process. Everyone is a work in progress. I am also a work in progress. Every day I am working towards becoming better. Then start small, knowing that it is not something, oh, I want to be resilient. Then I take 10,000 steps today. I can't start with 10,000 steps because I want to burn weight overnight. I can decide to, okay, fine, I'll start with 300 steps. Okay, I'll increase it to 1,000 steps. Okay, I'll increase it to 1,500. By so doing, I am stretching my limits and I'm building resilience compared to just waking up one day and saying, I am doing 10,000 steps. I might just faint on the road and they'll start looking for ambulance. So start small, build consistency. Just like I said, you start with 500 or 300, you move to 500 to 1,000 to 1,500. Build consistency, then thrive. Because while you're building that consistency, you're thriving. You know, it's a journey. It's a journey. So you need to start. A lot of times we procrastinate. I will. I think I will is one of the sentences that a lot of us can use so well that our sentences is not complete without I will. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later. Okay, I'll do it. You know, and start today. Start building those skills that you lack. Start building them. Do you need to communicate assertively? Start building it. Do you need to learn critical reasoning skills? Start building it. Do you need to learn problem solving skills? Start building it. Start. Don't wait until when the issues come. Start building so that when the issues eventually come, you are at that point where at least there's a level of resilience that you have built. Now, I want us this the week is already almost ended. This is the weekend, but I want each and every one of us to identify one small decisive step that we would take to strengthen our emotional foundation. And not just saying that we will take it, but start it and actually take it. What's that step you want to take? That decisive step you want to start taking to, strengthen your emotional foundation. I heard someone say, "Oh, I would love to go to that to gym. Or it's something I've always wanted to do. Maybe I should even start." Yes, maybe you should start. Luckily enough for you, tomorrow is Saturday, so you can actually start tomorrow. It could also be, "Oh, this is my wardrobe. I've been looking at this wardrobe for a very long time. I need to rearrange it. Everything is looking scattered." Then start. Tomorrow is actually Saturday, like I said also. You can actually start. It could be anything. It could be anything, but start. Start small. Build it consistently. Then before you know what, you're actually doing something. Don't be at that point where you're constantly saying, I will, and eventually get nothing done. So ending by saying resilience is not about avoiding the storm. It is about learning how to navigate through it while protecting your well-being. Resilience is not about avoiding. So it means that in life there will definitely be storms. Definitely there will be storms. So how do you navigate through those storms while protecting your own well-being? There was a time we had a patient um, admitted in the hospital. You would not believe what brought the patient to the hospital. He was getting married. You know, he was getting married and he had a meltdown. He had a mental meltdown 2 days to his wedding and he was brought to the hospital. Did that wedding hold eventually? No, it did not. Because he was not in his sane mind to even have the wedding done. So imagine that stressor, which is a normal life stressor. For every lady here, during your wedding day, I can imagine how happy you were, or during the planning of your wedding, I can imagine how happy you would be to plan a wedding. But look at the young man who was not able to manage this stress to the point where he had a mental breakdown and he was rushed to a rehabilitation center, because he was getting married. So it shows you that problems will come, whether it is good problem or bad problem. But you need to learn how to navigate through it so that your well-being is still intact. Would it have been possible that that wedding held and then that guy probably took 1 week to go and rest and say, you know what? I'm going on my honeymoon. I'm going to switch off my phone. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to see anybody. Just me and my wife. Yes, it's possible. But he wasn't able to handle the stress that came with the wedding to the point where he had a mental breakdown and he was admitted in the rehab. So it shows you that there is always storms, but how to navigate it is what matters. Do we have any questions?
This is so good. Thank you so much, Dr. Grace. Mercy, are you still here? Oh, great. I don't think Mercy is still here, so I'll just continue from here. So everyone, I can already see the applauses. Let's just keep it coming. Let's keep it coming. You all agree with me that this was a bomb. Let's keep it coming. Should you say it was a blast? It was awesome. It was insightful. It was educative. Name it. We have been taught to name the emotion. So name the emotion. How do you feel right now? How excited do you feel for learning something new? I know you definitely learned something new. Trust me, I learned a whole lot. Okay, I can see you guys. Thank you so, so much. All of those applauses and appreciations and beautiful emojis that keep coming up and keep coming up and keep coming up are all for you. Dr. Grace, thank you so much for the amazing time and session. Honestly, to say it was educative would just be a very mild word. I am sure that a lot of us here in the room are so empowered. We can say, emotional resilience is, of course, a continuous work. So we can't say we are sure that we're resilient right now. But the truth is that we are sure that we have learned a lot, enough to even empower us to be stronger day by day if we intentionally start to apply all that we have learned. Thank you for this amazing session. Very educative, very insightful, very, very empowering, I tell you. So everyone, there is of course an opportunity for you to ask questions. Do you have concerns? Are there thoughts that you want to share? This is the time. Or you would remain silent for the rest of your life, but don't mind me, that's a joke. So do we have amazing. Yeah, I agree with you. Modube, it was really, really amazing. So are there questions? Let's have it. I can't see the chat. Let's have it. Let's have it. If you have questions, please raise your hands and ask. Or are there questions in the chat? I'll need to minimize my screen. Okay, let's see. So no questions. We're all good. Is that okay? Give me thumbs up. Let me know we're good, and we can just end the session. So we're all good.
Well,
Okay, yeah, Dr. Iwari, you want to say something?
yes, I want to thank
Please.
the presenter. Very deep insight, very well thought out. Grace, thank you very much.
Thank you,
This is the
Doctor.
time we have to educate ourselves, let people know. that everything is not about medical challenge or physiological health challenge. There are other aspects that more, keep us functional and active. My one thing I have also worked on is on this resilience, and I found out in Africa that people look at resilience as suppression of emotions, or the ability to suppress emotions is what we understand as resilience. And I have had issues with that because even in the Western world now, they are talking about resilience because they say, oh, the African people, they're very strong. There's nothing do to them that pushes them, that they're always very able to overcome their emotional troubles. Apparently, that came from during the slave trade era, that our people, no matter the disturbance, no matter the flogging, the punishment, they're always standing strong. And so they're incorporating resilience as part of what should be talked about in emotional health or mental health. But they didn't tell us also that they themselves that go for therapy, that go for healing when they challenge emotionally, that they live longer than those of us that allow resilience, the concept of resilience, to take the lead in our own disposition, in uh, our own activities, our own living. So my argument is always that when trauma comes, when there is emotional upheaval, that people should not swallow it in the name of resilience. They should go for therapy. They should go to release those traumatic experiences so that they can come back to homeostasis and function well again. So in discussing uh, uh, in discussing the concept of resilience, we also need to say, look, when you have challenge, when you cannot bear it, when it's becoming overwhelming, seek for help. I just want to say that, and I say thank you again for the presentation.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you, sir.
Amazing. This is so good. A very, very key contribution and input there. You all agree with him. I think a lot of the guys are on this page, and of course some of the leaders, but guys majorly want to always man up and show that they a guy and of course a lady. This is encouraging you to speak up to. Yeah, I think that's also part of emotional, a way to show that you're emotionally healthy, that you know when to speak to someone and all of that. Okay, Dr. Grace, we have a question in the chat and it says, what are the early warning signs that someone is emotionally overwhelmed? Are there early warning signs to show that someone is emotionally overwhelmed? If there are, what are they?
Okay. Yes, there are early warning signs that an individual or a person is emotionally overwhelmed. Um, you start. So normally there is a quick check we do in mental health. There is the sleep, appetite, and mood. Right? Your sleep, your appetite, your mood. Anything that affects your sleep, affects your appetite, and affects your mood shows that there is something wrong. For an individual to, or for people, like when you're doing a mental health first aid, there are certain things you have to look out for when someone is acting in a particular way. You can actually tell that, oh, there's something wrong with this person, or there's something going off with this person. It could be irritability, right? Someone becomes very irritable for no reason, right? Even when there is a reason, you can tell that this person is being very, very, you know, irritable. They could also be frustrated over small issues. Very small issues will just frustrate them. Then it could also be a feeling of emptiness when you feel like you're emotionally drained. You feel numb emotionally. That could be something you want to look out for. Um, it could also be anxiety. There's this frequent anxiety, this frequent sense of impending doom, like there's something is going to happen, even when nothing is happening. The person is saying, I think something bad is going to happen. There's this fear of the unknown. It could be swings of mood, like your mood's going up, going down, coming here, going there. It could be your mood swinging, all over the place. It could also be someone who is just tearful. The person is crying for no reasons. Something happens and they are crying. Nothing happened and they are crying. They become very, very sensitive to when they are criticized or when they feel criticized. They become very sensitive and then they become either disconnected as a result of that. And now, when this happens, you can tell that this person is showing certain emotional signs that there is an overwhelming feeling. It could also be cognitively, right? It could also be cognitively because the person starts talking or acting in a particular way. There's something called cognitive distortion. And cognitive distortion says that it's called is thinking. Thinking, when you're thinking in a particular way that you're not supposed to think. So each time an individual gets to that point where something is white or something is black, and then they're making a big deal out of it. So if we're seated face to face, I might be seeing a 6 from what was written in front of me. You might be seeing a 9 from what is written in front of you. So if I insist it's a 6 and you insist it's a 9, we are both correct because we are seeing 6 and 9. But if we do not come to that understanding that what I see may be different from what you see, we might both be claiming right, which we are. But in the aspect of each person trying to accept the other person's perspective, it may be wrong. So it could be cognitive signs like you now seeing things in a particular way that is not, the way it's used to be in the past. It could also be physical, constantly, either you're sleeping too much or you're not sleeping, you're complaining of headache, you're complaining of I'm not eating well, I've lost my appetite, or I'm eating too much. It, it could be you now having gastrointestinal discomfort. I remember telling someone sometime back that most of the mental health issues comes with somatic symptoms, right? They come with somatic symptoms to the point where we look at the somatic symptoms and start treating the somatic symptoms. Meanwhile, you're only having a mental health issue. It may not be core mental health issues, but those slight ones like depression, like anxiety, like PTSD, most times it comes with somatic symptoms. And a lot of people first treat the somatic symptoms before they face, the main thing, which is the mental health issue. It could be behavioral, it could be with your relationship. So each time an individual finds themselves at that point where it feels like they are overwhelmed, there's something called an acronym called STOP. You know, so you first ask yourself, what have I been going through lately? What's been happening with me lately? You look at your stress level, and then you look at your thoughts level. What are you thinking about? What are the thoughts that are ruminating in your mind? Then you look at the load of the emotions you have been allowing into your heads, your mind, the overload you've been allowing. And then all you need to do is just pause. Pause. Stop whatever it is you're doing. Take a breather out of those situations. Go do some other thing. Do something different. Then come back to it later. But constantly, when you find yourself being overwhelmed, just do the stop. Check your stress level. Check the thoughts that have been going through your mind. Check the load you have been carrying, the overload you've been carrying. Then pause. Pause. Because at the point when you're not doing that, there are tendencies for you to break down. And the truth is, when it comes to prevention, it's very easy compared to when it comes to management. Like that word, prevention is better than cure. So prevention is actually better than management or cure, as the case may be. So I hope I was able to answer that question.
Absolutely. You did a very good job. Thank you so much. So we have another question so that we can move faster. Our time is almost fast spent. And the second question is you talked about starting small. What if the small still requires a lot? How do you go about it? Hello, Dr. Grace, can you hear me?
Oh, I didn't know I had muted myself. So I know that some smalls can require a lot. That's where having a good community falls into, right? If you have good support around you, your small may be so much, but when you're able to share that small, a tiny bit might just come to you. So starting small sometimes does not necessarily mean that you must be the one to do the whole small. Be able to delegate, delegate things to people. Ask questions. Share your ideas with people and say, look at what I want to do. How do you think I should go about it? What do you think I should do? Have you done this before? Do you know what that way you realize that it is actually even very small because the efforts you will put into it may not be as much as you thought you were going to be able to put into it, from the beginning. So yes, small can be big, but small can also be very tiny when you share it. So learn to share and delegate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm sure that answered your questions. For the people that asked questions, want to be sure that you've got the responses you need. So, everyone, just as it said, for everything that has a beginning, there is an end. And for this month's edition of the Voices of Mental Health, we have come to an end, and of course, a beautiful end and a beautiful session. So, as we wrap up today's session, remember that resilience doesn't mean never struggling. The facilitator mentioned it very well. It means developing the strength, awareness, and I know you're never going to forget these ones, and support systems to rise after life's challenges. She also just talked about support system, even when you are starting small. Your small looks like it's a lot. The people in your corner would be very beneficial right now.